I'm gonna put my hands on my lap, dude. Like I'm in
All
school.
right.
Like I'm in school. You're the teacher. How do I sound? Do I sound juicy today?
Oh, great.
All right. I've switched the microphone around so much. You know, it's funny. Dion actually ended up getting the same mic too because he was like, "Wow, that sounds so good." So he bought the like slightly upgraded one that you can turn the lights off. We're all rich now. We all have $25 mics.
Three, two, one. Backlog.
Welcome back to the 321 Backlog podcast, where we talk about games from our backlog. My name is Alec, and this is James.
Don't confuse the people.
How did I even hold on? How did I actually just claim to be you? Welcome back to the.
Nope,
What's up?
nope. Don't
We're
do
keeping
it.
that.
We're keeping it in.
All right, cool.
I'm not going to let you do it.
All right, you're not gonna. All right, great.
I feel like we haven't talked in a minute about anything other than like bullshit. What am I trying to say? I don't even know anymore.
All right, man. It's not like we're trying to do a podcast or anything.
Is it possible to? I don't really know how the Steam Deck works, but would this be a game you can put on your Steam Deck?
Dude, yes, we're gonna put that in there.
Like the Steam Deck, to me, from what I've heard from you, sounds like it's like a more polished way to emulate.
So yeah, it's funny you say that. It actually, I think it emulates Windows games, is what it does. So it's Linux based, but it has like essentially Proton, which I think emulates Windows through Linux. But you can do a lot more than emulate. So I played most of Death Stranding on the Steam Deck, almost actually all of it. I played on the Steam Deck, and I've probably played 40% of Diablo on the Steam Deck too. But there's like hoops to get, like you got to jump through in order to get it going. This week, we're actually going to be discussing Diablo IV. It's a very spooky game, and it just came out. It's not necessarily backlog material, but it's a pretty big deal to everybody.
It kind of, it may not have been backlog, but it was definitely...
it was going to go on my log.
Yeah, it was going to go immediately, so that's fine,
Welcome to the 321 Front Log podcast.
I like it.
We're a lot more, yeah. So Diablo IV, it's an action role-playing game, kind of a loot-based game. It's published by Blizzard Entertainment. It's the fourth installment in the Diablo series because Diablo Immortal never happened. The game was announced at BlizzCon in 2019 and released on June 5th, 2023, with early access starting on June 1st. We did both participate in the early access. We paid them extra Diablo bucks. We sold our soul to the devil to play a little bit early. And it was worth it, I think.
Right to Lilith.
Yeah, we gave them money right to her. We got roped in. So we started playing the day that it came out. Probably I started playing within the hour. I think you did too, right?
Yeah, within an hour of the servers launching. And yeah. I think my wait time to get into the server was probably like 25, 30 minutes.
Okay.
And I think you were probably about the same, but it was offset by maybe 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I had my own experience trying to get in. As soon as I went to log in, it was like, you got to update your video drivers. I pre-installed the game and everything, and it was like, hey, NVIDIA just released video driver update 2 days ago. You got to fix it. So I tried to do that. It failed to install. And then it failed like 4 times to download and install the drivers. And then I looked it up and people were like, oh yeah, just click out of the message and ignore it. Because it sucks anyway. They said that the update was causing crashes and stuttering. So
I don't know if my video card ended up needing to be updated. I know that after the game pre-installed, the Blizzard launcher like forced me to reboot. Before it would launch, and then that had its own update, and then that's when I got put in line to access the servers.
Okay, so it wasn't too. So I think as far as a Blizzard game launching goes, I'd say it was pretty good. Even when it rolled out to like open access or whatever you want to call it, like to public, to peasant access.
Yeah.
It Still didn't do too bad. I think it was pretty good. I didn't have too many crashes related to the server or anything like that. There's been some weird rubber banding, but I'm used to that with video games like this.
Yeah, I don't think I think this would have been my first Blizzard Diablo launch. Sorry, let me rephrase that. This is my first time playing a Blizzard game at launch that was Diablo. I've played like half of the World of Warcraft every time they would launch a new one after.
Yeah.
I think after Lich King, when I got in there, I think I did every launch that there was for a couple games. But I don't think Diablo was ever that high on my list.
Yeah, I've never played I don't know. I think I might have played Diablo 3 at launch, and there was a lot of weird issues where the game would just not launch at all, and a lot of people were returning it. That game was kind of a disaster anyhow, but I've played several World of Warcraft things at launch, the expansions. I remember specifically there was the one where it was Cataclysm and there was the underwater level.
Yep.
And it was the whole entire like first area, start area was underwater. And I remember all of us just I think it was Skype at the time, just struggling through that. And it was just, it's cool. It's a fun thing. It's like a midnight release party with the boys.
Yeah. Because for Diablo 4, we got on at what 7 p.m. Eastern, and then we played I think well after midnight.
Oh yeah, I played way later than I should have, but and I'm pretty sure I just got up and got back on. It's crazy how this all worked out. My wife got sick. That sounds bad.
honey, you're fine. You're fine. Just playing in the other room.
No, well, so she got sick, and I don't get very sick. I think because I work around so many sick people. I usually can catch something and kick it really quick, but I ended up taking the whole week off of work because I would like wake up and I'd have like one symptom and I'd be like, all right, well, I shouldn't work today. And then I would, by the end of the night, I would feel better or feel worse, depending, just the opposite of what I felt when I woke up. Right. So I ended up having an entire week to play this game. It wasn't planned. I just took the week off, and that's the way my scheduling oftentimes works. So yeah, it's kind of funny how that worked out. I just played a lot of Diablo the first week, but
yeah. I tried to keep up. I didn't even know it was launching, or honestly, I didn't even know it was coming out. And then you said, "Hey, we're getting on tonight. We're playing Diablo for launch." I was like, "All right, what are you talking about?"
I'll spend $80 on a win.
Sure, let me just go ahead and drop that. Oh,
what is this game about?
Sorry, honey. So that was
whoops.
No, it's all right. I won't go into that. But so we played it. It was fun. It's not a game I typically gravitate towards. I have played I think I played Diablo 2, maybe some 3. I never played the first one. I know that for sure.
Is old.
Yeah, I mean, when you and I have been playing Blizzard games for well over 15 years. So I mean, Have
you ever played this style of game? You have. I know you have.
Yeah. What's that one that you always were on? Path of Exile. Isn't that similar?
Okay. Yeah, it's actually it's the true Diablo 3.
So I think that I tried playing with you on that a couple times. I don't really think I played any other type of game like this where it has that like
you have.
Isometric view. Well, I don't know if you're going to pick the one I think you are, because I don't know if that is the same.
Borderlands 2, I think, falls heavily. Borderlands in general actually falls in this category a lot.
Really?
It's not isometric top down, but it's like the loot thing, and that's what drives the game. And I think I think that's why I enjoyed Borderlands 2 so much, because it's a mix of two genres that I really enjoy.
Yeah,
looter shooter.
Looter shooter. The shooter part saved it for me.
Yeah,
I think because there's such a, and it's a hard thing to articulate because it's like this in other games as well. But like the uncertainty of what you're going to get, I think kind of throws me off a little bit.
Oh, I like that.
But for like using Borderlands as the example, like you can get away with it because the shooter aspect is still fun, the story is still fun, all that. I think that's why Diablo's never been at like the top of my like, oh yeah, I gotta go play it, even though it was fun.
I think from one big thing for me, I think is just the fact that every one of us was playing it, even people that I haven't seen play games in a long time. I've just been seeing them pop up on here. Like a guy I went to school with, has been playing it a lot. Both of my brother-in-laws are playing it now. Just everybody, it's kind of brought everybody out of the woodworks, I think, because it is such a good game.
Yeah, I think for a play experience, I think it's better with a group.
Yeah.
Because trying to catch up to y'all's level, because you were, which to quick aside
Something to
with that
talk
on this
about, yeah.
game, it's not really, it scales to each person's. If you're in a group, everybody is scaled kind of the same as far as what they're seeing.
Right.
So it's not like you're going to have like one person that's really high and just obliterating everything. So it keeps that
Yeah.
level. So, but I do think when I went and tried to play by myself to catch up to those levels between you and the rest of our party, it was a lot less enjoyable and a lot harder. So I definitely enjoyed it more as a group. And
Yeah.
if I was going to go at this without you saying, "Hey, let's go play this," I probably would not pick it up again.
Okay. Well, that concludes our podcast. Thank you.
It's still fun if you're playing as a group. Definitely for me,
I
I
think
think
for
it's as a
me,
group is a lot better.
yeah, in general, all games are more fun in a group. That's the way I always am. I think, especially these kinds of games, you get better. Supposedly, you get better loot, more loot. That's a bigger challenge. I guess the enemies get stronger when you have more people in a party.
Right.
So, but it was just cool. Everybody having different abilities. We were all trying to figure everything out at the same time.
Yeah.
You've got like one of our friends was playing a sorcerer, another was playing the necromancer. So you've got really just like zombies everywhere, all these elements everywhere. I was a werebear druid.
Yep. I also played Druid.
Yeah, but you picked more spellcasting type stuff.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I was trying to be more support because I was to me what I was fulfilling as a role in our little group was like, I know you guys are getting much more enjoyment out of this. I just wanted to play, you
Yeah,
know. So
just
I
wanted to be-
like if you didn't say, "Hey, Diablo's coming out," I never would have bought this.
You might have.
Yeah, probably
No,
not.
I'm just kidding.
So I was just like, I want to make sure that I'm playing to hang out with you guys, but also I want you to play what you want to play, and then I'll
Yeah.
just try to support around it, and it was still fun. So our abilities didn't like clash. We weren't trying to compete for aggro of being a tank or something like that. So I think even though we were still playing a druid, it was a different enough
Yeah.
that it kept that party composition pretty balanced.
Yeah, and it's also not the kind of game that traditionally needs like 3 DPS, a healer, and a tank. There's a little bit more flexibility with that. And
Mhm.
it's kind of cool when two people play the same class and go a different route because you can discuss it as you play and kind of make suggestions and see
Mhm.
a little bit more insight to maybe how the game is going to go with your build and stuff. I think you might enjoy it more now that the game's been out a little bit longer, and we're kind of seeing a little bit more on the way talents are going. You might enjoy it a little bit more if you actually go into a more damage role. There's still some support as well, but there's the option to. Yeah, I was watching you comb your beard there. Yeah, there's if you go more into a damage role too, I think you'll enjoy it more, especially for solo play. There's a lot of people that are doing the werewolf build, and then they're using like storm strike, I think it is. So
Okay.
you're kind of like, but it's I don't know. The game's crazy, and there's a whole lot more to discuss about that. But I know this isn't.
Yeah.
Just watch YouTube if anybody listening wants advice on builds. It's going to change. They're going to nerf everything and make it impossible to enjoy. Did you know? Did you know that I think the lead developer for this was the guy that was lead on Heroes of the Storm?
Really? So
Yeah.
it'll be dead in a couple years?
Yep. He had nothing else on his plate.
You know, it's just I really wish Heroes didn't die out how it did. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that game has a lot more potential to if they just put some effort towards it. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. But that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the title he actually is, because it's not. I don't know if he's a director or something, but yeah,
Hmm.
something. Yeah, he was the director. The director. I'm getting a Twitter post here. Yeah. Anyways, that game's old. This game is new. Sorry. So we both picked Druid. We kind of went down different routes. We were playing with a pretty diverse group here.
Yeah.
For the bro group. The intro video was insanely long. I while I was trying to install my drivers and everything and waiting in queue, I just watched the intro video on YouTube.
Yeah.
So that way I was like 13 minutes ahead of everything.
And also, quick aside, we're obviously going to have some spoilers on this, so just keep that in mind. We may be talking about some of the plot coming up and different parts of the game and stories. So be warned, there may be some spoilers coming up. So
Yeah, but this game has been out for like 10 days, okay? You guys should be done with it by now.
by
All
the
right?
time this recording comes out, it will have been a bit longer. So
Yeah, so get it
should work in our
together.
favor.
Did you so how did you feel the difficulty was? I know you said it was a little more difficult by yourself. How did you feel overall? Did you pick tier 1 or 2? You picked 2 because we
I
all
think it
did.
was, yeah, we all picked tier 2, which
Okay,
honestly
so
I don't
that's
remember what the difference was.
I think it's just more loot, like better loot, more difficult. It's
Okay.
so it
Yeah,
goes up to tier 3 and then 4 too. Once you beat
oh
the
wow.
game, you can turn it up and make it a lot harder.
Gotcha. It was much more difficult by myself. So
Yeah.
I didn't have. I don't know if any of the classes have like a self heal outside of potions.
It's sort of, but not like reliably. Not in the sense that you can just like cast a healing spell on yourself.
Right. Okay. So
There's like
yeah,
percentage based healing based on damage and stuff like that,
okay. Yeah, I
and
think
mitigation techniques.
because I was building my character out to be support for you guys,
Yeah.
it didn't translate well by itself.
I don't know now in retrospect. I don't really know that would work well going too far into the game because, especially by yourself. But
Mhm.
like when you see big group play, like there's world bosses where you can go like tons of people fighting against it at the same time.
Right.
It seems like everyone's just trying to pump out as much damage as possible. The best
Yeah.
defense is a good offense, son.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Talking about like different abilities that have like percentages on damage and all that, like those very number crunchy mechanics and stuff. Most games I play, I don't dive too deep into the numbers, which you probably should. Talking about Heroes of the Storm, you and the rest of our group are like looking at towns and like, oh, we get a 5% here and a 15 on this, and this changes cooldowns. I'm like, yeah, but this one looks cool. I definitely come at these games
This one
with
makes
like,
yeah.
yeah,
This one gives
I
me extra magic missiles. I don't really know what it does, but
exactly. So I definitely that part of the game I don't think I ever really found enjoyment in on those types of games is really like finding those like perfect combination of
balance and skills.
modifiers
Yeah.
and balances and all that. So I think that I come at a bit of a disadvantage not really caring about that and just wanting to just play, you know? So my build that I made definitely does not do well solo.
Well, next time we all play together, let's look at what you picked, and we should, if you want to, and then we
Yeah.
can kind of go through. Respecking is super cheap, especially at low levels. Also, you can drop gear for somebody from late game and just instantly make that person like rich
Oh, nice.
because it'll sell, for $30,000 or whatever
Right.
we're using here, whatever the currency of the sanctuary is.
Doubloons.
Doubloons. For some reason, I thought you said it's like the balloons. That's what I heard.
balloons.
The balloons, dude. It's
balloons.
balloons.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, so you can kind of if you're interested, you can kind of respec, and I think you might enjoy the game more too if you can kind of plow through it because people
Yeah.
have fun when there is challenge to a game, but like you're also gonna have fun when you're able to get through it. Like, especially you.
Not having it in front of me, going off of memory, I think a lot of my abilities were like CC and like damage reduction against enemies.
Yeah.
So like I wasn't dealing out next to like any damage. I wasn't doing nearly any at all.
Right.
But I was lessening the damage that was incoming to the party,
Yeah.
slowing down their movement, stunning them, and all that. So as a party, it worked great.
Yeah.
But
And that'll be, I think a lot of those things you can still do because I have on my build, it's getting up there. I just hit level 60 last night. But yeah, you can still build out for a lot of the damage control and damage reduction stuff and CC.
Right.
But I also in turn can still dish it out. So I think that's just a little bit of respecking and stuff. We'll look at it and do it because I think it'll make the game more fun for you.
Talking about the specs for a minute,
Yeah.
and I don't know if the other Diablos did this, but when you're picking your character in your main selection screen, we hovered over Druid and it kind of told you like the different things that can do and
Yeah.
how it described it. Thinking back, I was expecting like three or four, I can't remember how many, distinct talent trees. So once I picked
Right.
all the earth abilities and stuff, I thought I was only going to get access to those, similar to how like WoW does it, where
Right.
if
Yeah.
you're a protection paladin, you just get protection abilities, right? But it was kind of interesting as an option, but I think to me it worked against me because there was just too much. Just because you start out as your werebear, you can then grab werewolf abilities for the druid and spell casting. You can just kind of, pick and choose the whole way down. It's like
Right.
one massive tree with kind of options for each spec in there. Did the other Diablos do that?
They didn't do talent trees the way that you're talking about. It
Mhm.
was more, I remember on no, I think it was kind of similar to how this one is. I know Diablo 2, there's almost like a menu and you just click like extra points into certain abilities and stuff like that. It was a little
Gotcha.
more simplified, but
Okay.
yeah, it wasn't in the sense like I remember in like Borderlands being another one where there's talent trees based on the spec, and your goal is to kind of go all the way down the talent tree for the ultimate ability. This one's a little
Mhm.
bit more open, which I think is good for the game. I
Mhm.
think that's a good thing because then you can do some of those control abilities while also being in melee range and stuff like that. You don't have to go all the way down one route and limit
Right.
yourself.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because I can't
Yeah.
think of any other games that like I know ones that pick and choose, but kind of like that Borderlands example, it kind of like lessens your ability to max out on like another one. So I just thought it's just something interesting to call out.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it is true how usually in more games we've played, I think there is just a defined tree, and you would say like, "Oh, I'm this spec,"
Right.
instead of just naming the spec based on kind of some of the abilities you take. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. You played on the PC. I played on a mix of both.
Hmm.
And then I think out of our friend group, I was the first one to be like, dude, the controller, play with a controller.
Yeah.
It works pretty good, right? I've never played a game that felt this good on controller versus mouse and keyboard.
Yeah. I think quick thing. Does Path of Exile let you use a controller, or are you locked into that mouse and keyboard?
They, I don't know about on PC, but I know it's been released on consoles. Like it's on
Okay.
Xbox and I think PlayStation, but
So I
it can't
think
possibly play that well with a controller just because the game doesn't even play that well with a mouse and keyboard.
Gotcha. So I think one of the issues I had with this style of game and going way back in our gaming career, like RuneScape, yeah,
Yeah.
that like point and click to move mechanic, I
Yeah.
never liked that.
Dude, you play
So,
Heroes all the time.
well, and let's be honest, the movement in Heroes, I'm not really a fan of because I mean, just
Okay.
like with that one, that has like pathing issues. You don't know where it's going to go. That's yeah, whole other thing. But it was just one of those ways to play the game where I didn't like gravitating towards like this type of game because of that mouse and keyboard structure. With
Right.
the controller, it is so much better on like a play experience. The movement is fluid based on your controller joystick moving around. You don't have to click and then, move your cursor while you're holding it and do all that. It's just much simpler to just use a joystick. And your abilities, when I'm sitting there, I do like the flexibility of like how the mouse can switch between targets,
Oh
but
yeah, and that was a big thing.
I think having everything tied to the mouse for movement and enemy selection, and then switching over to your other hand for your abilities, I think the controller simplified it, but also expanded. I don't know how I'm trying to articulate that, but it felt more intuitive to use the controller than it did to use the mouse and keyboard. And I guess the only thing I could say would be someone who's listening to just try it both ways,
Yeah.
and you can see that I think the keyboard or sorry, I think the controller, it just is a much smoother experience.
It is too, like I know later in the game you're not there yet, but we're gonna drag you through hell.
Literally.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. The controller ends up being you get a horse later on, a mount, if you will, and the mouse and keyboard with the mount feels so janky. Like you'll get snagged on everything
Mhm.
constantly, but if you use the controller, none of that stuff happens. And I don't know what they did and why that happened. Like why that, I don't know what occurred with the development that made it so much better, but just generally moving, you don't get hung up on stuff even when you're on foot nearly
Mhm.
as often.
When you're, because I haven't gotten the mount yet, when you try to change direction, if you're at a standstill
Yeah.
and you want to go the opposite direction your horse is pointing, does it try to like go forward slightly then turn? Is that
Um,
maybe what's happening? Is it tries to do a fluid motion instead of just flipping it? It tries to like go forward then turn.
like a horse movement would be how you kind of
Yeah,
have to take a
right.
wider turn. It does that a little bit, but it's more like you'll be running from one part of a map to another, and there's like a random stick on the ground, and you will only get hung up on it if you're using a mouse and keyboard. Like
Gotcha.
for some reason, if you're on a controller, your horse is more athletic. I don't know.
Right.
It's the
I think
athlete's controller choice.
how I kind of like perceived what was happening in the coding. And again, I'm not a coder. I don't know if this is true, but
I don't
like
even know what a coder is.
as you were using your mouse to move, I think you could like click in that direction. Say if you were going to move from left to right, you could click over to the right and just hold the mouse, the key. Good lord, you could just hold down your left click, and it would
Right.
continuously move. I don't remember if that actually was the case or if you had to keep clicking.
You just hold it down.
Yeah, so I wonder if it's maybe registering on the map as like continuous individual clicks versus the joystick, which is just I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just weird. I'm not sure how it functions, but it just
That kind of reminds me of another thing. The default in this game, left click is like a general like use slash attack slash walk button, whereas
Mhm.
on the controller you just point the joystick in the direction and you hit A if you want to do those things as
Right.
well. It's much easier as melee, I've noticed, to like you can attack while walking
Mhm.
with the controller, but if you're on mouse and keyboard, your character pauses while attacking for a second. Kind
Yes,
of,
it
I don't know,
does.
just kind of a weird thing, but it felt really good on a controller. I don't know.
Yeah, it was easier to select which target you wanted or which enemy you wanted to target with a mouse. With the controller, it kind of if you were pointing in a certain direction, it would kind of pick whichever one, either at random or have some kind of parameters on which enemy it should target if they were all clustered together. And eventually you would kind of whittle through their 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 defenses as they went down. But that's one thing the mouse had over the controllers. You could actually pick exactly which enemy you wanted with the mouse versus the controller. It kind of just attacked in that general direction. At least that's how it did for me.
Isn't that a quote from like Monty Python or something? I don't.
Oh,
No, never mind. Never mind.
I below
Attack.
my
I
nose at
attack in
you.
your general direction.
Ah, blow my nose at you, so cold.
I did notice that with the controller a lot too. Like I would go to use I had a ability for a while where you can throw a boulder out and it helps CC by pushing things away. There would be times where I would be attacking something on my left, and then I would go to use that on my right to try to get that enemy to leave. And the game would be like, "No, you're fighting the guy on the left. Obviously, you wanted to." So yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like aim assist. It can be really good, but it's like not always what you want when you want it.
Right. They both have their pitfalls,
Yeah.
uh, keyboard and mouse versus controller. But I think the controller has more benefits versus cons for sure.
Yeah, I think it's kind of necessary though with a controller a lot of the time. I don't know. It was good. It was surprisingly really good. I felt like if it was before, I've never played Diablo 3 on a controller before, but I feel like if you would have told me this was only going to be controller based like console, I would probably have skipped it if I hadn't actually given it a shot. And I think a
Right.
lot of people are having the same experience too, where it's a lot better than they expected with
Yeah.
the controller. I played it on the Steam Deck, which There's some hoops you got to jump through to get it to work because Blizzard Launcher doesn't want to play well with the Steam Deck. But it's crazy how well this game runs. It's my computer is kind of old, and the Steam Deck is not a powerhouse necessarily. But I had it on high settings, and I was running like between 45 and 60 frames on the Steam Deck. Now that's
Whoa.
it's only 800p on the handheld. It shockingly ran really well. I was very surprised, very impressed with it. Good job, Blizzard. You did great. You can't do anything wrong. Okay, so what was the last point you got up to? Do you remember what level you were or anything?
I was like very close to 40, which I think is the mount
crap. Yeah.
cutoff.
Well,
I think I was like high
it's actually
30s.
based on story we've learned now.
Okay. Balls.
Yeah.
That I hadn't gotten that far to get a mount.
Yeah.
So, let's see. We had Yalenza. I think the last thing I was doing was going to Yalenza to then go north, but I think it was a side quest.
That means, I don't know, man. There's so many side quests and it's all over the place with this game.
Yeah.
Jason started playing it the other day and he was like level 40 and still on Act 1.
Whoa, okay.
Because he was just doing all these side quests and I was just like, bruh, you're gonna like be level 80 when you beat the game.
Yeah, so we through like basic setup, we end up meeting this one NPC. There's like this girl that was like we're trying to find her mother, right? So
yeah,
I think we went to I think we dealt and went into that dungeon like 3 times, and then downed
classic
her mother's demon or whatever, and I think that's where I ended.
Okay, so I think that might be the end of Act 1.
Yeah, so I may be in Act 2. I don't know how far into Act 2 I am.
Did you enjoy the story of it from what you saw? Like, do you think it was, I feel like these games, the story's not usually a big deal, but how did you feel about it from what you played?
I'll preface this with, again, World of Warcraft was my Blizzard thing, not Diablo. To me, from what very little I know, it just feels like it's the same story over and over again, right? Like, you're a hero, one of the big bad devils, typically Diablo, is trying to, I don't know, do a bad thing, you go stop it, right? And then this time
apply that generalized statement to anything though.
That's
just apply it to your job, dude.
The only difference in Diablo 4 was they reskinned Kerrigan, and you've got a lady devil this time. Like, that's, to me, again, not knowing next to anything about Diablo, that's what it looked like they were doing.
Diablo's lore is pretty deep, bruh. There's a lot. Like, I know you don't know it, but it's Mephisto's daughter. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, the daughter of hatred.
Oh, but yeah, it's like it's insert person of bad feeling. They're the big bad, and then you have to go stop their big badness. And I think the reason they all, to me, feel the same with better graphics is the entire world that you're walking through, and like the level design and everything is very like bloody and kind of body horror-ish. They all look and feel the same, right?
Interesting.
So to me, it just felt like, I don't know. You go through a bloodied path, and there's a dilapidated building. Hey, look, there's a flayed body in the corner, and a demon pops out. Rinse and repeat, right? Everyone listening, or instead of a demon,
love it,
or it's a goat person. It's like you just get to That's how I see it through my very limited lens. The graphics were great, but to me, not knowing anything about the story, it all feels the same.
It's weird because a lot of people that play these types of games really like the dark setting and atmosphere that you're describing as kind of like monotonous. Was that how you would describe monotonous? It
was constant, and again, not gravitating towards these games. Oh man, the fast travel was a godsend, because if I had to like walk from our main town like back to the Yalenza, for example, just to I have a quest, I just need to get over here and talk to this dude, and if I had to walk through that every time, you get to a point in some of these games where you've beat so many enemies, done all
Yeah.
this stuff. This area should be a little safer, right? I don't need to walk through and after 2 seconds of being out of a safe zone, 35 demons show up out of nowhere. Like,
Well, that changes a little bit when you get a mount because you can kind of just like enemies are less attracted to you when you're on a
right,
mount, and then also if you end up in near a pack of them, you can hit spacebar or B,
right,
or right trigger. I'm sorry, and just like blast through them. Like your horse will just like ram them out of your
right.
way.
So, but they're still there.
So it gets
You just
better.
can avoid
Oh
them
yeah,
better,
dude.
right? So I just,
Hell is ever present, dude.
I think I was. It may not have come across this way, but what ended up happening, I was getting real, like, very tired at home because it was getting late and just ready to progress stuff. So I think you guys like got caught fighting something. I just kept walking really far and I aggroed so many things. And you guys eventually started following me. And then you made the comment of like, whoa, where'd all these things come from? It was like three different groups of things that I
Yeah.
aggroed that all just like were resetting and just
Yeah, yeah,
swarming
yeah.
back down. You know,
Yeah.
it got to a point where I was at the level, even with the build, talking about how support based my build was. I was at a level where they weren't necessarily a threat, but I had to deal with them anyway, and it just got a little annoying.
Yeah.
I wanted to
I
see the
was
story and continue, but I had
yeah.
to sit there and at the time I was using the mouse, just sit there and click over and over and over again. It just got boring.
It can be kind of, I agree, it can be kind of frustrating because the mob density is decent, I guess, in the game, but I notice in dungeons for me a lot of the time, like it'll be like you need to go kill this boss and this boss to unlock this door to fight the big boss,
Right.
right? So on my character, I would find myself just like using as many movement skills as I could to get past everything and through everything. And when they would start to catch up to me, I would turn around, throw that boulder thing down, knock them all back further away from me into the dungeon, give myself more space to keep going. And I noticed I would do that a lot because it can get kind of like that,
Yeah,
especially
and you're
yeah,
using
especially
your
later in the
you're
game.
using your abilities and resources to avoid the monotonous stuff, right? And you
Yeah,
enjoy these games a lot more than I do. So that right there is telling me that your core group of players,
efficient. I'm very
yeah,
efficient.
your core group of fans and players are at times still finding that it might be a bit much. Now, if it's a region you've never come to before, absolutely put hordes and hordes for sure. You go into a dungeon, clear that dungeon, leave, and then go back into that dungeon. It better be empty still because you've dealt with that
Yeah.
that area. If I have a main thoroughfare from one town to another and I've cleared all the enemies, they should not be spawning as fast. Or instantly spawning just hundreds of enemies again. It just, which
Right.
again, that's this game. I fully understand that. It just seemed a little frustrating at times.
It was just a little much for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know dude, it's kind of the style of game though. It's just like constant. You want high mob density because you're gonna get more loot and
right.
stuff. So I get what you're saying too. I do agree because I mean there's evidence that I've tried to avoid some of it if I could, but that is kind of the style of the game as
And
well.
I
So
forget your initial question that started me on this tangent.
it was do you regret having children?
Oh
I'm just
God.
kidding. You're just trying to get them away and keep going. No, I'm kidding.
But no, the graphics were great, even though, it all feels the same and story-wise, graphics were great. Sound quality was great. The sound atmosphere, it checked the box for what it was trying to portray, which was creepy and demonic at times and all that. It put you into that world. It was great.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like, I don't think anybody ever wakes up and wishes that they lived in Sanctuary. Nobody, there's some settings in games where you're like, yeah, I could live here. You don't want to live here. There's nothing enjoyable about this place. And I think that's the atmosphere they're trying to portray is that like you're miserable all the time.
That was something else because when we talked briefly, like we decided to do this Diablo episode yesterday. So
Well, I mean, we had no choice.
I was sitting there, like, I don't know if you do this now that we've been doing a podcast, but like when we pick a topic, I'll start like coming up with things I want to talk about like in the car and stuff. So
Yeah.
one of them
Yeah.
was, and I don't know the answer to this. You might. I think I know the answer
I
because
do.
of
I do. I know the
how
answer.
Diablo is structured. But Sanctuary is a bad place. Things are terrible for everybody. There are like
Yep.
angels, or they're the equivalent of angels with what Tyrael and Ariel
And
and yeah,
Arius.
and all that. So
Yeah.
at any point in any of these Diablo games, do you get to traverse to those areas that are not overrun by demons and maybe see
Dude.
the sunshine and green grass at any point?
So, okay. There's
Is
dude,
there
again, we're on the fourth game in this
is
series,
there
right?
like a Nagrand from from World of,
Oh, I don't know if it
Yeah.
ever gets that nice, but so at one point in Diablo 3 you go to heaven,
There you go. So it's just
but it's not a good time. It's
ah,
I think it's cuz like Diablo himself is like, "All right, we're bringing the fight to the home base," kind of
all
thing, you
right.
know.
More
But
red skinned and bloodiness.
well, it's also very like majestic
Right.
looking kind of, you know, but there are like demons there that you're fighting against,
Right.
but
All right. So different landscape, but
this
the same stuff.
yeah, I think if you take any, it's an eternal war zone essentially. So like anything you build is gonna slow like quick like you know you're always fighting these demons
Right.
and stuff. It's a never ending conflict between like heaven's archangels and like the evils
Mhm.
of the world, and that's what Sanctuary is kind of the battleground for that. Because all the I'm sorry if I get any of this wrong because this is a very expansive game and people are really passionate, but Lilith is the daughter of Mephisto, and she got a little bit freaky with Inarius back in the day and created the Nephilim, which are the inhabitants of Sanctuary. All of the people, they're like the Adam and Eve of Sanctuary, I think. And over time, they were these like super powerful beings, but they all just kind of lost a lot of their pizzazz because they just were like they were just kind of lazy or something.
The pizzazz,
So
such a good
they
word.
lost the it factor. So I think that's like what it is, and you're kind of caught in like a lover's quarrel between the two in this game, and they're both trying. Like I think Inarius is trying to get win heaven back over because he's been expelled from that cool kids club up in the sky, and Lilith is trying to kind of do her own thing. But yeah, they were lovers, and we are the kids. I'm not a historian, so
You said the inhabitants of Sanctuary are Nephilim.
yeah.
In other story worlds and stuff, Nephilims are like when an immortal being like an angel or a devil or something
Demon.
or a demon
Blah.
have good times with like a mortal,
Yeah.
right? So does that mean that are we playing as Nephilim or were Nephilim like a long past thing?
They're half angel, half demon in Diablo's world.
Okay, so not with a mortal being, but between two, like a Romeo and Juliet situation.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I think everybody there is technically Nephilim. They're all the spawn of this mistake
Right.
of Lilith and Inarius getting freaky, I believe.
Hmm.
But yeah, so
Interesting.
and they're all kind of just become modernized and lazy and fat like everyone else. I think.
Okay.
I could be wrong. If I am wrong, I want you to directly find me, DM me, send me a letter to my house
Get in the
and
comments.
let me know. I want you, yeah, just no. I want you to come to my house and just explain it to me. Give me a poster board. Tell me all about it. But yeah, so there's a, I don't remember why we got on that subject, but we did anyhow. But oh yeah, because you wanted a happier setting.
I wanted, I wanted something I wanted it to be broken up, right? Like I know we're
Yeah.
in bad times. Hell, give me a flashback of like good times. Give me something to break away for those that maybe don't want to sit there and see flayed people on the screen the entire 50 hours I'm going to put in this game. Maybe just break it up a little bit. Give me something
Give me
else
like a smiling baby elephant,
for
please.
just I mean for the story right now. I know it's the looter, that's the main part of the game, but when you're looking at I don't know, I feel like just other games have a mix, so you're not burned out seeing the same thing over and over again. Going completely different franchise, Halo, right? You've got most of the game look somewhat similar between like the human or whatever their version of human was and the alien race, but then that break from the monotony of it is like the flood. So just something to
Break it up a
break
little.
up, just to break up the constant slog of just the same thing, no matter what the subject matter is. It's just the same over and over and over again. I need something to just give me a brief reprieve from that thing, which in this case is the constant.
This is not
bloody
the game for you, then, huh?
I guess not. I mean, again, I got it because you said, "Hey, we're all playing this game tonight." I said, "Great, I'll get it, and we can all have a good
Zero.
time."
You're just going in blind, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Crazy. Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's ever going to be that moment
might-
where
it
you
might
just
not
like
be.
sit there.
Diablo
I'm
5,
trying to think if
Rainbows
there's.
and Unicorns.
That's funny you say that because that was Diablo 3 had a like the end game of it. There was a rainbows and unicorns zone.
Oh, was there really?
There really was, and everyone hated it.
Oh, come on. All right. Maybe
I'm
it's
trying to
not
think
my
of the name of it. What was it? Whimsyshire is what it was called. And it,
I
dude,
need
it's so.
I
What are
need
the
the
odds of
Diablo
that?
4. I need the Diablo 4 Rainbows and Unicorns patch.
This is so
DLC.
Alec is the target audience for
Yep,
that
just me.
nonsense that everyone hated. I'm sending you a picture in Discord of this is
Oh, okay,
legitimately,
that might be a bit much.
dude. But isn't it? It's funny that you said rainbows and unicorns, and there it is.
Oh my goodness.
That was the end game. There was like a weird process to acquire that zone. It was like a secret zone. But it's crazy because you called it exactly. It's almost like you did more research than you could have ever imagined.
No, so that right there, just looking at that screenshot, I did not play Diablo 3. I think I may have played Diablo 2 then.
So Diablo 3 actually, aside from that, got a lot of complaints that the game was too bright and happy.
Really?
Yeah, it's funny.
I mean, and I, you know what? Hey, I fully acknowledge, like, if the main the main fan base this is the game that you guys like, and I may be an outsider coming in thinking the complete wrong set of, or having the wrong set of expectations or criticisms, I'll say, you know, it is what it is. But that's kind of what I kind of had as my thoughts. Like,
Yeah.
you know, when we play Heroes of the Storm, one of my favorite, I may not be very good at it, but one of my favorite heroes to play with is the Butcher. Love the Butcher. That's been my one of my.
We could talk about that.
It's been one of my icons, I think, in that game forever. You know, it's a really cool character. I like it. I like that stuff. I don't know. I think I just wanted something different. All their other games from Blizzard, World of Warcraft, obviously a lot of different areas you can go to, but a very different kind of game. Their StarCraft side, you got the different factions and things that you get to split up how the game is, where the mechanics are the same. They break up the monotony by seeing different factions and different abilities within those factions. There's breaking it up some, right?
Maybe respecing or playing a different class is what you like.
That
This
might
game's
be
version of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because and again, I've only played a portion of the Druid, so
Yeah.
I fully acknowledge that I may not be the best one to pass judgment on this game, but that's what we're here to do. 3, 2,
Pass
1
judgment
backlog.
on this game. Okay, so you hated it. Good to hear.
No, I didn't hate it. I think I might be just being overcritical. I got asked a question of how'd I think about it, so that's what I thought.
Yeah,
But
no,
it was-
I get it. I do. Yeah, no, it's all valid. It's true that it is a very like if you're sad, maybe it's not the best game to play. Like if you're having I don't know, but maybe it is because you get to take your rage out by turning into a werebear and smacking some zombies around.
It was so here's one thing I'll say after all of that, right? When
You got one nice thing to say.
no, when the four of us were playing,
Yeah.
when all four of us had computers that worked,
Uh-oh.
it was a fun gaming experience.
Yeah.
So you know, you can still enjoy the game. I can still have those criticisms, right? It was still
Right.
enjoyable. So
Yeah.
both things can be true, right? I'm a gaming expert.
What is the atmosphere of a game that you enjoy? Like what game has a very good setting for you? Just so I know.
Ori and the Blind Forest.
You gotta be kidding me.
All right, atmosphere. All right, so because it's the top of mind in the atmosphere of a game, Limbo was really good. Let me get.
It's like dark and terrible and depressing too. I feel like that you should.
Well, it
Limbo feels like it was a game that was made by somebody that lives in Sanctuary.
Yeah,
You've got kids dying everywhere.
Well, no, I mean, okay, so no, atmosphere of a game is the feeling it's trying to portray through your visuals, your sound, voices, and what feeling it's trying to portray, right? And I think Diablo did a very good job of portraying or setting the tone of the atmosphere they were trying to get across. They did that very well.
Yeah.
Right, they were trying to make it a demon-filled, dreary place that everyone hated their existence living in, right? Because it was a very bad place. Bad things were happening constantly, and they portrayed that perfectly.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Did I want just in my gameplay experience? Did I want for me sitting in my computer or sitting in my computer room? Did I want to just have a little bit of a break from that for 5 minutes? Yes, I did.
Can you imagine if it was raining that week when you tried to play, like it just in real life, just be a little too much.
Yeah.
All right. So wait, what's a good setting for a game for you? What's your
So like Assassin's Creed, I love those.
Is there that moment of stopping? I guess there is, like where you stop and you get up on one of those watchtowers and you can kind of look down and see everything.
Yeah, and we got to do an Assassin's Creed episode because
I'd like to. I haven't ever played Black Flag, and I know it's
Black Flag, the absolute for me top game from that franchise.
Give me them
hands
pirates.
down. It's so good.
The one thing I want to touch on a little bit. Did you have like a moment that you really enjoyed in the game? Like, was there any like where you were like, "Oh, this is it," or was it just kind of the group play for you?
Nope. No.
All right, moving on.
Nope. Hey. No, the playing as a group was great. I did like seeing the druid specific area.
Oh yeah, that was cool. I agree. That was kind of a neat area.
Yeah. You know, and I'll try not to keep shitting on it and saying the same stuff over again. It was a druidy area with the demons and the dungeons and all that stuff. That it was just a different landscape, right?
Yeah.
But it was nice to see. Enemy. It was nice to see something class specific.
Later on in the game, you get to kill a lot of humans. It's pretty nice, right?
Heck yeah.
It's a little spoiler maybe, but yeah, you get to kill some good old fashioned people. One thing I want to say, so later on in the game, you fight a boss named Duriel, and he is a boss from Diablo 2. And when I played Diablo 2 way back in the day, I remember just basically throwing my corpse over and over and over at this guy, Duriel, because my build sucked. I was like a melee necromancer that also focused on shooting bone spears or something. It was terrible. I had a very bad build. I didn't know anything about the game. But Duriel was this giant, like, worm maggot type thing, or maybe a mealworm. I don't know. It was like this big. Anyway, it's like, yeah, I'm just constantly throwing my body at this thing, and then late in the game, you fight him again, and there's zero indication whatsoever that you're going to fight him. There's hardly even a mention of him, right. But he just comes back, like they brought him back, I guess. And when I saw him pop up and it said his name, I was like, here we go, revenge time. Like, this is it. I get to, like, my character this time is good. Like, I have a good build. I'm playing really well. I haven't really died in solo play in forever. Let's go. Dude, this thing stomped me into the ground so hard. I died twice back to back. It was cool because it was all the stuff that I remembered, like why it was difficult. It burrows into the ground and creates these giant holes that you can't walk over.
Oh, okay.
So it's constantly changing the environment of the fight.
Right.
And then it's very quick, even though it's this giant worm. It's very quick. And it was humbling and it stomped me into the ground. It was cool because I did finally beat it and it felt very rewarding. But it was just crazy because it was I thought for sure I was going to get my little revenge, like 12-year-old James was going to feel real good about it, and I got stomped. Another thing that I thought was kind of neat was sorry, shoot, I lost it, dude. Oh, when we were all playing together and we saw the butcher,
Yes,
it just popped
that
up in a dungeon.
that I think
It
was
was like that, oh dang,
yeah.
kind of moment.
I did
And
like
the
that.
butcher is, yeah, so the butcher's like the he's very tough. Like I've only been able to kill him one time
Mhm.
out of all of our times. And we did it, me and Eric were able to do it by finding a pillar and kind of running around line of sighting him a little bit and healing a little and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a very tough fight and it's kind of like a big gear check. Like if you see him, if you're on hardcore, I feel like most people see him when they're playing hardcore and they probably just alt F4 out of the game. But yeah, it was kind of cool.
I did like seeing him. Is he a reoccurring like elite in all the Diablo games, or was he like a story boss in one of them before?
So I think he was in Diablo 3, but he was kind of just like brought back and that's kind of what revitalized some of his popularity in Blizzard lore. But he was a boss in Diablo 1, but the thing is you have no indication that he's going to appear at all. You have nothing.
Right.
You're just like traversing through this like dungeon and it's kind of, you're in like a slow spot of a dungeon and then you just hear fresh meat and the guy comes like running at you and chops you up. And I guess he's kind of like, that's what he does. He's a very tough, high hitting damage boss.
Right.
600 stacks of meat, butcher. And I guess that's kind of what was iconic about it is that you don't have any indication that he was going to be there, and that's the feeling they brought back in the dungeons too. You will just be dominating a dungeon with the boys, and then out of nowhere, it's the butcher, and you're never ready for it.
Right.
If you knew the butcher was coming up, like it's a boss fight room, and you knew it was going to happen, maybe, but you could pull a huge pack of mobs, and the butcher comes out of nowhere, and that's kind of why. Yeah, so it's cool. I thought that was like it was when we were all playing and just running through it. And we got butchered.
Yeah.
It was like it felt good to die.
Yeah, I think that was the first time that we did die in our initial playthrough.
Oh, we all got obliterated, yeah.
I was kind of hoping because we immediately went back into that dungeon. I was hoping he was still there so we could kind of give it another shot, but he was gone.
Yeah.
So
and that's also good too because you get your shot, and I guess he has a pretty good loot table. There's pretty good drops from him, so
right.
You get your one shot, kind of like the treasure goblins. Like you see
We
them,
saw
and if you can't kill it in time.
of treasure goblins. I think I remember.
Yeah, I don't see that many now.
Yeah, while we were playing, since I've been playing, I think we've seen like 5 or 6, which feels like a lot.
Yeah, it's not. I think there's less now. Maybe they're more frequent when there's a lot of players,
Right.
or maybe just the fact that we had more people, we noticed them more.
Yeah, those were. I think we got all of them except for one. The last one that I experienced, I think he got away.
Yeah, they always get away from me when I'm playing by myself, but my character hits like once every hour for really hard. One thing that I guess Blizzard is aware of this, doesn't really matter, but the loot table for druids is like all whacked out right now, and it has been. There's like a lot of reports of druids are getting like barbarian drops and they're not supposed to. Like there's something wrong with it. I don't know. So they're very difficult to gear up.
One thing that was bothering me with our loot was I would continuously get drops for things that I think would be better for your build, but but they were total garbage for me. So
yeah, I'm encountering that nonstop right now.
Yeah,
like
so
in the end game, I get so much stuff trying to push me into being like tornado build.
Yeah, and I feel like Blizzard, especially like taking World of Warcraft as an example, I remember you telling me a story, I think before I really started playing World of Warcraft, of you spent like months doing like raiding every week with your guild and all that, and like the thing finally dropped the day you weren't there, right? It was like
it sounds about like my experience with that game.
And over the years, they've kind of softened your experience. Some would say for the better, some would say for detriment of the game.
It was Deathbringer's will.
But they would make it easier and more streamlined for people to play, get loot that was relevant to what they were playing, right? Even to the point now where I think, say you're playing a druid in World of Warcraft, when a legendary item drops, it is good for all specs,
right?
But based on what spec you're on, it will enable certain
I think that
attributes.
reduces the
Right. So
longevity of the game by doing that, though.
right. So I'm just saying. So why I brought that up. I was surprised that Blizzard softening their other games to that level. Going to Diablo 4, you're getting loot that is completely useless. Or in the case of getting barbarian stuff, like their loot tables are messed up. So it was just a surprising thing to see same company, same developer for these other games, and they've gotten this formula down. I mean, WoW's still a pretty big game. It's just for their loot table on Diablo 4, brand new game, should be polished right off launch. You're getting
Yeah,
these weird
the
loot
the
table
loot table
problems.
problem is definitely an issue. I get what you're saying. I think it would decrease the longevity of the game a little bit if the items adapted to your spec, because then you could just easily respec. But the reason there is the option of salvaging for materials, so there's materials you can only get from legendary items by salvaging them, so they're not useless to acquire them. It's just their currency. You just don't
Well,
don't
I
know it
think
yet.
because of the current level I'm at, it's like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm building this thing specific to like not doing the werebear, for example, right? So when you give me loot and I can only get a benefit from it if I have a talent that is werebear specific.
yeah,
So what am I going to do with that? I'm either going to salvage it
that's what
or
you do.
sell it or whatever. It's like it just I feel like
So there's another thing
I don't
too
know.
that I don't know if we really knew it when we were playing all together, but you can get aspects from dungeons or take the aspects off of some gear and imprint it on other gear later on. So
Oh,
you can
interesting.
you can go through a dungeon, acquire a codex of power, and then you can upgrade any rare like yellow item to a legendary status,
Okay.
and then make it for your build. So
All right.
eventually, yeah.
Okay. So that's, I guess adds a grinding aspect of trying to get the
Oh
stuff
yeah, this
you
game's
can't
grindy.
use to, yeah.
I think that kind of is that. Do you have anything else you want to add about it? Do you want to talk about the setting a little bit more?
Yeah, we probably could give I mean, you'd have to run it, a general like story setup of what people could encounter or what they have. I didn't get through the whole thing. Did you end up finishing the main plot?
Yeah, I did. I finished it. I want to say like maybe the day after it was actually released. So it took me like 6 days to complete. It would have
Right.
been faster, but every time someone else logged on that wasn't up to my story, I opted to play on their thing,
Mhm.
and I've still been doing that. So Jason just finished the game last night, and sorry, my dog is growling at something. Jason just finished the story last night, and that means I'm playing on tier 2. So my gear that I'm getting is not relevant. So
Right.
I'm essentially just getting some materials by playing with him and, helping him through the game or whatever, just for the fun aspect of it. But yeah, I finished it. It was a good ending. I don't know, I liked the game overall. The game picked up a lot towards the end.
Hmm.
There was like one part, man. If anybody's listening, dude, the desert where you're walking through a sandstorm, good God. And then there was like a mission where you're walking through a snake storm, essentially. It's like the Sandstorm 2.0, but you're just following a snake. Man,
A
it's
snake
just like they don't need to put that kind of crap in games anymore. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked it. It was a good game. The story ended well. We'll play it. I think I started another character too already, but I'm
Right.
gonna probably shelf it and stop. But
Yeah,
it's been
I'll
fun.
probably play again.
Yeah, you
I'm
gotta.
still going through Death Stranding, which we haven't recorded yet. So, depending on when this comes out, we've most recently released Ori and the Blind Forest. BioShock's in the way. We're still playing Death Stranding, and then
Yeah.
we snuck Diablo in. So, I'm a little behind on some stuff here. So, I want to wrap up Death Stranding before I get too far into Diablo. But
Yeah, Diablo, I feel like is going to be one of those games that we keep playing for a while. There will be seasons which are going to reset like your characters, and you'll play through the story again, kind of.
right,
But it'll be new mechanics introduced to the game. Like shrines are in the game right now, but I think like they'll introduce maybe a new type of shrine or just a new gimmick of the game that kind of switches it up, and then if it's a good mechanic, they leave it in for the main game, but your characters usually reset when they do that. So
right.
It's kind of like what Path of Exile does now, if you're into that kind of game. These types of games are very time consuming, and then eventually there isn't much to talk about other than the mechanic and the best way to get loot. So I don't know. I feel like this is going to be one of the games that we kind of migrate to off and on, back and forth. Heroes got a little stale for a while there. It hasn't been updated in 9 years. So
Yeah. Oh man, I got into a little spat with somebody on Heroes last time. I like 2 weeks
another
ago.
player.
Yeah, like
oh, okay. I was like, man, I don't remember that.
like a couple of weeks ago, for some weird reason, I think after we recorded something, I was bored. I think you went to go do something. I was like, let me just play a Heroes match, and I won. I came up MVP on Butcher, and people were just giving me all this. They might have been trolling, but it was just the player base of Heroes of the Storm right now is just pure garbage.
I feel like the
And
player base of every game I play kind of sucks. Like I played Counter-Strike a little while ago with one of our
Yeah.
friends, and I'm not experienced with the game. I think I'm
Mhm.
decent at shooters, but I don't know all of the details of the game. But like they've tried. I made one little mistake, and then there's like a vote to kick me out of the game comes up. I'm like, come on, man, just
Yeah,
like I think
it's
we
crazy.
would have lost that either way. I don't think
Yeah.
it comes down to me. You were the first one to die, probably the guy that initiated the vote. You were
Yeah.
dead before me, so
Yeah,
I don't know. People are crazy.
The older I get, the more I gravitate towards games that are story driven versus a
Like
competitive
Diablo.
element. Yeah. Exactly. So,
Get a Steam Deck.
God, man.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're killing me.
I'm killing you,
Yeah.
dude. They go well. Maybe with the ROG Ally, people will sell them third party for a little bit cheaper or something too. But
Maybe.
it is a console too. Like
I know.
that's something you have to consider. It's not just like a cell phone, but there's also like third party things that function really similarly that maybe are cheaper. It's an investment,
Yeah.
but I've definitely gotten my money's worth out of it for sure.
Man. We just need more people to listen on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, we just get us a Steam Deck. Sponsor me, Valve.
All right, let's see here. So, yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode for Diablo 4. So, you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna continue to enjoy it. I look forward to the next time you want to play as well. I think that the level. Oh, we never mentioned it, but the level scaling is super good. You kind of briefly tapped a finger on it, but the level
Yeah.
scaling in the game makes it a lot more enjoyable for people that can't play all at the same time. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to playing with more of the groups. I think when everybody kind of ends up in the same end game area, it'll be a little bit more enjoyable again, because right now it's pretty everyone's getting a little bit spread out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No, I'm not going to discount it fully. I definitely am going to play the game. I won't be playing it by myself,
yeah,
but I'll definitely, when we have our game nights, I'll definitely hop in.
yeah, I'll look up a couple. Like, do you think you'd rather be a wolf boy or a bear child?
If I'm going melee, I typically try to be higher DPS. If I had to guess, I'd say wolf would probably be like faster and more agile to do quicker attacks and stuff.
Yeah,
So I'd probably go Wolfie Boy, or
the game wants
it.
you to do it.
or play a different class altogether.
Oh shoot.
You know.
Yeah,
I've only
I know,
played
dude.
Part of one of the 4 or 5 classes. So
Yeah, it seems like if you want melee and fast, I started playing I'm almost done with Act 1 and I'm like level 10. That's how quick and just ridiculous the assassin rogue whatever class is. It's kind of nuts.
okay. Oh, there was one thing I was going to bring up for this episode, and now who knows if I'll put it in because it's like so random. But I mentioned earlier, as we're trying to do our outro, I mentioned earlier where I'll like be in the car thinking of things to talk about for an episode.
Yeah.
I think did I tell you the story when we were trying to name our son, our most recent boy?
You wanted another name that started with
We wanted
a letter,
a
a D.
name.
Yeah,
So,
Deckard. Deckard?
yeah, I was gonna name. I pitched to my wife, and she quickly shut it down.
Come on, Deckard's a good name.
Deckard, and I thought it was great. So we wanted a D name. So our initials right now in the family, mine's A. My wife starts with a C. My son starts with a B. our oldest son. So we were already A, B, C in the house. I was like, we got to have a D name, right? And we ended up not going with a D name because they all suck. Sorry, everybody named, I don't know, Doug.
Sorry, Daryl.
Daryl.
Your name
Damien.
sucks, Dave.
So, I was like, oh, what about Deckard? And I was
That's a good name.
like 90% serious. And she rapidly said, no, that's terrible. And she didn't know the game connection.
Oh, yeah. What, dude? Just name your son Diablo.
Diablo. I said so. Like when we
Dariel?
when we were still picking names or trying to pick names, I would send her like just random words throughout the day that started with D. Durango, Diablo, dungarees, stuff like that. But yeah,
I like dungarees. Yeah.
I tried, for those that are saying, hey, this guy doesn't like Diablo at all, I tried to name my son Deckard. So I tried, right?
We did the best we could.
And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and roll that music. Thanks so much for listening. That wraps up our discussion for Diablo IV. If you enjoyed this episode, please let us know with a thumbs up, a comment, or sharing with your friends and family. If you're able to do so, play along with us. We'll post upcoming games to our socials and what games are up next at the end of each episode. This has been 321 Backlog by Alec and James. You can connect with us on any of our social media pages and by sending us an email at 321backlog@gmail.com. Until next time.